Recently, I have got a lot of requests to create a video tutorials based about object-oriented programming, so I have decided to create a 3-part video series where I'm going to teach you about the basics, intermediate and advanced things based about object-oriented programming. So in this first video, I'm going to talk about the concept of object-oriented programming. I will show you how to declare new class, how to create setters and getters, what are the properties, and etc. So let's do it. Hey, what's up guys? Senaid here from CodePassiveIncome.com, the place where I help others to become a web developer much easier and faster than they will do it on their own. So if that is something that interests you, consider subscribing. So now, in order to explain you the concept of object-oriented programming, let's imagine that we want to create a human population that we have on this planet. So as you can see, we have over 7 billion people in this world, and the problem is that if we want to do it from the coding side, it will be really challenging because we will need to create the same thing 7 billion plus times. So now if we think about this and look each human, we can notice some patterns. Almost 99% of us have the same functionality, the same visual appearance. So let's say that all of us have a head, we have eyes, we have nose, mouth, neck, arms, some body, 2 legs, etc. We also have some hair, and really it's not important. So now if we think as not only web developers but programmers in general, we will be smart if we create this as something abstract and then we just multiply this a lot of the times. But of course there are some things that are different between each of us. So some of those things are first name, last name, maybe skin color, the height, the weight, etc. And now with this object-oriented programming, what you are going to do, we will just create something that is almost the same for all of us, and then to this class we will just give an options to modify this class, and then on that way create a new objects that are basically everything the same with just the small difference. So let's say now if we have this class and we want to create a new person, we will just create it very simple. We will just create me new instance of this class, and we will get a new object, which in our case of course is a new human. Okay, so this one will look like this, and now all we need to do is just to apply and call some methods, which in procedural programming is function, to just create the difference between those two. And now of course we will just in a few lines of the code create a lot of those. So I know that this at the moment is very hard to imagine, but just remember that with the object-oriented programming, what we are doing, we are actually creating one class that will have everything the same, and then in order to create a new object or instance of this same class, we will just use 1 or 2 lines of the code, and the calling the methods we will make difference between each of them. So as you can see now, the object-oriented programming is probably at the beginning fun, and then you will find it very frustrating and challenging, and later you will find it will be very cool. So with that being said, please stay with me through all those steps, and I'm sure that one day you will be happy that you took these steps. So let me now show you how to write the code and actually create some classes. So now once you understand the basic concept of object-oriented programming, let's create some class and set some setters and getters to this class. So in order to create some class, we need to use the keyword class, and after that we need to give a name to this class. So let's say I will name it person, and then we just need to open and close the brackets. So now after this, as you can see, this class doesn't have any method inside it, so we can create some. And now, before we even create any, I want to show you how to create a new object from this class. So let's say we will have a name, maybe I will better say Senaid, equal, and I will just say new person. Okay, and now let's just try to execute this. I will hit refresh and there is nothing, which means that our code is completely defined. But let's say that I'm going to create something that we are calling construct. Okay, and now you may ask, so what is this function construct? Basically, it is a function that is called every time that we use the keyword new. So if we do not create one construct, we won't call any, but basically by default it will be called if it exists. Okay, so let's try to do this, and I'll just say echo new object has been created. Okay, and now let's try to refresh, and now as you can see inside our construct class we have got a response. Okay, as you can see I didn't call any method, but just by using the word new this has been called. So let's say that we will have one variable here, so I will maybe say name, and by default I will just say that the name will be user. Okay, and now inside this construct we can pass some name, so let's say name. Okay, and in order for me to change this name I will need to use the word this, which means that we are referencing to the current object, and then I will say name equal new name. Okay, and now by default I can say that this is an empty, so I will say here if name is not empty we will change the name of this person. And then let's say I will create a new function that we usually call getters, so I will say public function get name. Okay, and I will just say echo your name is, and then here I will just say again this name. Okay, and now when I create a new person I will say here Senaid get name. Okay, so let's try to refresh, and now it says your name is user. And the reason for that is because at the construction we didn't specify any name. So if I wanted to say Senaid, I will specify it here. And now if I refresh, you can see that I will get your name is Senaid. And now as you can see, at the moment we do not have any option to change this name instead of at the time of the construction of the class. So it will be great to have a function that we call a setter, which means that you are able to change something inside this class. So I will say public function set name, and then I will specify name here and say this name equal name. Okay, so now if we try to use it this way, I will hit refresh and it says your name is user. Okay, and here I will say Senaid set name, so I'll set Senaid. So maybe it will be better if instead of Senaid we use person. Okay, so the name will be Senaid, and then again I want to say get name. Okay, So let's see what we will have. Refresh. So as you can see, it says your name is user, and again it says your name is Senaid, which means that by doing this we have called the setters with the name set name, and then we have updated this variable. Okay, so now if any time you want to get or to just change something, you will always have to create setters and getters. Now you may ask, what if I try to do this? So let's say I will just delete this and I will say echo person. What do you think it will happen now? If I refresh, now it says that object of class person could not be converted to string, which means that we are not able to just say echo person, but we can do something like this, create a new function to string, which means that now we are able to call it and to create some string. So I can say that we will return your name is, like this. Okay, and now if we refresh, you can see now that it is working. But since we have here also GetName, and basically this is the same, we can change this to the return, and here we will just say this GetName. Okay, so what we are doing here, basically from the method to string we are calling the method GetName, and then this GetName will return this message. So let's try, refresh, and it is the same result. And of course, if we want to specify some name, we can do it, and this will be changed. So as you can see now, this is where the real usage is. We can have different functions, and each of these functions will do something really awesome. At the moment it's really not doing anything special, but the understanding of those basics is extremely important. So let's now try to improve it even more. So let's say that this GetName, which by default, not by default, but this is the best practice, is that when you have the name of the function, it should return only that. So if we say here GetName, then this function should return only the name, and not like we had in the previous example other characters. So here now let's say that we want to also create a setter and getter for the last name. So maybe I will just duplicate this and I will just say set last name. So I will say here last name. Okay, and now the same here, get last name. Okay, and at the top I will also define variable last name, and for the last name by default it will be empty. And now on the construct I will set that we are also able to provide first and last name. Okay, I will duplicate this. Okay, last name. Okay, so now when we create some person, we are able to specify the first name and also the last name, and also we have setters and getters for this person. And as you can see now, the function toString by default is returning only the GetName, so maybe we should improve it. So I'll declare a new function and say identify, and then I will say return my name is, and then I want to say this name and this last name. We could also here call the methods for this, but there isn't any reason for that. And then here in the toString I will just say this identify. Okay, of course we can add some other functions and properties like age, skin color, etc. But for now let's use it just this way. Okay, and now as you can see here we have person John, and then let's specify some last name, let's say B. Okay, that's person number 1. Okay, and then we also want to have person number 2, so I will say person, and this one will not have any name or last name. I want to set for that person using methods, so I'll say person 2 set name, and I will say Senaid, and then for the person 2 I will also set last name, I'll say Bacinovic. Okay, so those are just 2 persons, and now let's try to identify each of these persons. So I'll say echo person 1. So let's see what the result will be. So I'll refresh, and as you can see it says my name is B. So let's see why is that. So name, the problem is here, we made small mistake. Okay, let's try again. So for the first person it says my name is John B. Okay, and now let's say we'll just make one new line and say echo person 2 identify. So as you can see now I'm directly calling the method identify instead of doing it this way. So let's try, and as you can see now it says my name is John B, and for this one it says my name is Bacinovic. So let's see what is the problem with that. Okay, here I should change this. Okay, and let's try again. Okay, and now as you can see we have created a functionality where we are able to create 2 different persons, and now for each person we are able to manipulate, in our case, the name and the last name, and we are able to get those informations on 2 different ways. And now as you can see this code is completely the same for both persons. So now in order to make our code a lot more readable, we just can cut this. I will create a new file. So let's say we will name it person.class.php. Okay, and of course you can specify this .class. It's not a must, but it's just a good practice, so that we know that this file contains some class. Okay, and now we will just include it here. So I will say include person.class.php, and now if we refresh, the result will be the same, and now our code is really readable. We don't have a lot of the functions, and we didn't write all of this code 2 times, we made it only the once. So maybe at the moment you are not able to see the real usage and how much powerful object-oriented approach is. So for that reason, in the next 2 videos I'm going to talk about intermediate and advanced object-oriented programming. So guys, I hope that you like this video. If you do, please like it and share it to your friends. And also, if you have any questions, please ask in the comments below. Take care.